and wow on the NFL level. I just don't see it. He's undersized, and we've seen good running backs that are small, like Warwick Dunn, do really well. But they had the complete package, and RJ doesn't have it yet. He's got the strength. I think he just needs someone to work with him and build that technique, build a better, when it comes to blocking, get a better lower center of gravity that he can, go after blitzers and guys off the edge, or being able to adjust to movements, swims and whatnot. We've seen, if you look at the, on the tape, he's been blown by a number of times. So I think if he can work on lowering his center of balance, and, even though he's not a tall guy, put the weight at his feet so that he can move laterally more quickly to handle, guys coming off the edge, or adjust to maybe a blown block by the offensive line, I think would go really far for him to be able to prove his mettle. Because if he can't block on the NFL level, he's not going to get on the field. But he's probably the most likely to get drafted. If you look at his numbers on NFL.com, his prospect grade is not great. It's an average backup, but his next gen stats to NFL is pretty good. So, I mean, there's potential there, but he's going to need some work.
Yeah, look, you raised a good point about him needing to be able to block at the next level. You're your quarterback killed. You're not going to see the field a whole ton. Sometimes it's that running back's responsibility to pick up that blind side for QBs. But before we move on from RJ, does he compare to a guy maybe like Alvin Kamara in terms of, size and speed and his ability to be able to be good at the next level?
Well, Kamara just is a little more explosive as far as getting to that next level. Kamara's a little bit taller, so he's got a little bit of a longer stride that can break into the second level. But as far as bulk wise, they're not that too dissimilar. So as long as Harvey can leverage that low center of gravity that a short player can bring to this game, make him harder to tackle, be able to disrupt blitzers and rushers coming in. I think that's where it comes down to. But, Kamara wasn't, it took him a couple years to kind of get going. He wasn't a 1,000-yard rusher off the bat. He didn't start off the bat. In fact, it wasn't until his second year as a regular player that he started. So it took him a little bit to get going. But again, it comes back to technique. If Harvey can, upgrade his deficiencies in technique, I think he can find a way to get on the field.
I agree. Look, I think that he's going to get a serious look at the NFL level. He's going to make somebody's roster. How far he goes will be up to RJ Harvey. The next guy on the list is BJ Adams. He played cornerback, hometown Atlanta, Georgia. He stands 6'1". Came in at 186. And he had 14 tackles, 10 solo, 2 interceptions, 2 pass breakups, 18 receptions allowed on 35 targets. That's 262 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 4 penalties, and he had an opposer passer rating of 80.9. His draft ranking is 295 on Pro Football Focus, 131 on ESPN. A little bit of an outlier guy here in the draft. What do you think about BJ Adams and his chances of being able to make a splash at the NFL Combine?
BJ Adams has, I think, a higher ceiling than RJ Harvey just based on his genetics. I mean, he's built to be a corner, whereas Harvey's a little undersized for the role. Right. He's perfect size. At this point, it's all mental. It's the footwork. It's the being able to respond to the running game. It's the discipline with covering the routes. Those are areas that Adams needs to work on. There are times where he just has some lapses in his coverage, and it's all mental. He's got all the physical tools. He's got good handwork. He's got good quick feet when his head is in the right place. So I think he's got a higher ceiling as far as if he can put it together. But you look at the the prospect grade again on NFL.com, he's actually slightly higher as a prospect grade to Harvey, just by a few points. To be one was 5.96, where 8 is perfect. Harvey, and then Adams is a 6.0. So he's just that next category up, just a little bit higher. But his next gen stats are not nearly as good. That they're 60, they're average. Adams today is a low level, maybe undrafted free agent, maybe squeaking on the 7th round on a flyer. But I don't think Adams is going to make a splash in the draft. But he's going to be a project, and he may have to, build some time on a special teams or something. Because as long as he can, tackle well, I think he can have a home there. But as far as in the defensive backfield, he's got a lot of work. These NFL wide receivers are a different monster, and you got to be at the top of your game if you're going to cover them.
Yeah, I think that so many players find themselves here where they are most players are going to be projects at the NFL level. The very few guys come in, Andrew, ready to play. It's going to be about the work that he puts in, the organization that he gets to, which is underrated, the tutelage that he gets, and how far he can take it from there, how far they allow him to take it, unfortunately. But BJ Adams, the next UCF Knight at the Combine right now, trying to move up draft boards and show something off. We're going to get to our second half here and talk about more players at the NFL Combine right after a quick word from our sponsors. This segment of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Roy. Attention, UCF fans. The future of college sports is here, and it's transparent. Before the Roy app, NIL negotiations often happened under the table, and fans didn't have a clear way to directly support the athletes they love. Now, with Roy, you get to be a part of the change and support UCF athletes in the most transparent way possible. You choose the player you want to support. You decide how much to contribute, and you receive exclusive content from the athletes you back. The best part is if your player transfers, you get your money back. It's a risk-free way to show your support. The Roy app is giving fans control, no more uncertainty. Now you can provide transparent, impactful support and help shape the team and the future of college sports with your contributions. Download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing UCF athletes the way they deserve, with transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading the Roy app to support your favorite players today. That's the Roy app to support your favorite players today. Next up.
Before we get rolling, I only got 15 minutes or less than 15 minutes. So I don't know if we'll make it through both segments.
We're live. Andrew, we're live. Yeah. So, yeah, I got you.
Okay.
So in the next segment here, we've got Kobe Hudson, wide receiver for the UCF Knights. Wide receivers coming in, hometown Pine Mountain, and he stands 6 feet tall, 198 pounds, 47 receptions for 770 yards, 4 TDs, 2.7 yards per route run, and 13 contested catches with 6 drops. Number 46 on 146. On PFF's draft rankings. Kobe Hudson. This is a guy who came to UCF from Auburn, and he had a ton of potential. I thought he was, personally, I thought he was UCF's best receiver. And because of struggles in the passing game, we didn't get to see a ton from Kobe Hudson. But talk about Kobe Hudson, his chance to make a splash at the Combine.
Yeah, I actually thought that Hudson would have a better rating going into the Combine. His analysis is kind of brutal. The strength they talk about, good against press coverage, is able to adjust downfield and elude and pull away. But the weaknesses that NFL.com says, loses tempo at break points, below average route running, struggles with focus on catching, and a poor catch rate when thrown outside of his frame. The little bit of chaos that Gus Malzahn's offense had maybe hurting Kobe Hudson's draft stock at the moment. But I think putting some good numbers up at the Combine, and then a strong pro day will go a long way. Now, pro day for the Big 12 will be centralized again, like it was last year in Texas. That's gonna, it was very well received last time. It maximized the amount of scouts that were able to see players. So I think that can help Hudson out. He's not a big guy. He's only about 6 feet tall, so he's not a large receiver. Of course, that also can hurt him. But if you can really have good crisp route running, and basically if it's thrown in your zip code, you can find a way to catch it. Even a guy who's only 6 feet tall can really make a big splash. So I think the pro day is where he's going to have to really put on a show to build up his I guess you could say his draft stock. Because if you actually look at the NFL grade, the up to 8 grade, he has the lowest grade of the 4 UCF prospects at the combine at 5.86.
Oh, wow.
They just don't have a big expectation for Hudson.
Yeah, look, hands, speed, and route running if you're a wide receiver. Now, I've said that of all the positions on the field, wide receiver is where the least of your destiny is in your hands, Andrew, because you can't throw yourself the ball. You can run the perfect route. You can do everything perfect and just not have the ball thrown at you, which UCF receivers found themselves in that position a lot this year with the struggles in the passing game. But if you're Kobe Hudson, so many guys prefer, especially wide receivers, prefer their pro day over, the combine. A lot of guys skip the combine in favor of their pro day so that they can have their guys throw to them and, have more control over what that product looks like to the scouts. So I expect to see him. We'll report out later on the date of UCF's pro day. Usually it's around the spring practice, during spring practice, or around the 8A game. The spring college football game. And we'll see what he does. Last on our list of players at the combine right now. So we've got BJ Adams. We've got RJ Harvey. We've got Kobe Hudson, and our last UCF Knight at the combine here is Mack Williams. He's a cornerback as well, 5'10", 181 pounds, 32 tackles, 25 solo, 6.5 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, 2 pass breakups, 22 receptions allowed on 39 targets, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 penalties, a 70.1 opposer passer rating. He ranks number 257 on Pro Football Focus and number 163 on ESPN. Talk to me about Mack Williams.
Mack Williams is a transfer from UAB, had a really solid year at UCF in Big 12 competition, which kind of put him on the map. He may have had better numbers at UAB last year, but I mean, it's, you're comparing a new American team versus, the Big 12. He had a pretty good season. He's not a big guy. He's 5'10", which is, not, I don't want to say undersized, but a little bit on the short side of defensive back. Usually you got that 5'10" to 6'2" range for your traditional DB. But because of that, he actually utilizes it correctly. He's able to change directions real quickly, which is an absolute must as a corner. And he makes very quick reads. His biggest problem is his wingspan. He's not a big guy, and his body backs it up, and so that could work against him, against a taller wide receiver who does have the wingspan to be able to just jump over Mack Williams. And one of the other things is, his trail coverage needs some work. Like the other prospects at the combine, not a huge score, viewed as, as definitely an average backup is what they're viewing him as. I think Mack Williams probably has the lowest ceiling out of these players because his physical attributes are working against him, whereas the others, it's mental attributes. You can fix mental, but you can't fix a short arm.
The lowest ceiling out of all the prospects. Interesting take there. Look, these guys all have work to do, I think. All of them have work to do in their own way. And the NFL Combine is the start just for some guys. I think it's most important to show off some sort of athleticism. The NFL likes raw, unbridled athleticism. They like talent. They like to see physical attributes that they can work with, and they want to see a work ethic, right? Because not only that, all these guys are going through interviews, Andrew. They're going through interviews, and they're talking to these NFL people about who they are as people. And before they invest millions of dollars into a guy, they want to know who they're giving that money to, certainly. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see where these guys land up. Is there a guy who moves up the board simply because they just like him? Right, like that's what I'm interested to hear how they do in some of the interviews and how they feel like, hey, this guy is a good representative of our organization and he's got most of the tools and we feel like he can be a good fit. But look, Scott Frost is now the coach and they've got to get guys into the NFL draft. We're going to talk about if Scott Frost can get guys to the NFL here right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Fabric. Life moves fast, especially when you have family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for your term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedon. That's meetfabric.com/lockedon. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Again, secure your baby's future with fabric.com. Scott Frost has got to get people to the draft, Andrew. He's got to put people in the draft. If you're going to build a program, showing that you can get guys to the NFL is super important. How do you see Scott Frost doing this go around here? Now, obviously, these aren't his guys. There will be some who assign these draft results to Scott Frost. I see it at every program, even though he hasn't coached it down here. These reflects poorly on Scott Frost. I don't think it can reflect on him at all. But, what do you see for Scott Frost in the future in terms of being able to be that pipeline to the NFL for the UCF Knights?
I mean, the problem is he just doesn't have a whole lot of work results as far as that department. When he had his run at UCF, a lot of those players, the upperclassmen, were JoJo O'Leary guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he did bring in McKenzie Milton. He did bring in Adrian Killens. Now, I think his biggest success is he got Shaquem Griffin on the field. They moved him away from being a defensive back. They turned him into a tweener linebacker, and he thrived in that system. So, I mean, there is a little bit that you can fall back on. There's not a whole lot. What he did in Nebraska, not looking great, but that whole saga was just a complete mess. So at this point, you kind of go with the blank slate, and the world has changed. It's no longer so much about bringing in new guys and developing from scratch. You could bring in a transfer and develop Kobe Hudson, Javon Baker, RJ Harvey. All these guys are transfers. None started at UCF. So I mean, you don't have to take a complete raw stone and chisel it down into a block you can work with. You can have a person who's partially there, and you just gotta polish them, or in some cases just give them an opportunity to shine. In the case of Griffin, he had all the talent, he couldn't get on the field. He was given an opportunity to shine, and he did. So it's not so much that they have to, do a whole lot as far as with the transfers. They got to give them opportunity to be able to grow, and then a little bit of polish on the outside. Find those areas that are a little bit rough and make them a little bit better. You got to check. It's almost like there's two different versions here. There's the transfer version, and then there's the high school version. The high school version of the recruit, you've got to work from scratch.
Yeah,
you take a very rough player and you turn him into a college star, or at least that's the goal. And if you turn him into a college star, he can be, you try to get him to the NFL. That's always the goal. Doesn't always work out that way. In fact, it usually doesn't. But that's always the goal. And could Frost do it? Sure. Why not? but he doesn't have a huge resume to fall back on. That's where these other coaches, especially the ones who have experience, are going to have to step in and help out a little bit in that. Because again, right now it's about selling the program and the potential. And right now it's all about potential because you don't have a lot of results to fall back on, but you will. This is a long game.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, turning Taven Jackson into an NFL draft pick would be a great start. Putting QBs in the NFL certainly helps that resume. And because this is a QB's game in today's college football, I think that is a great place to start if you're Scott Frost and if you're McKenzie Milton. Develop QBs, man. Get them to the next level. Andrew Gluco from The Last Word on Sports. We're going to get out of here. Before we leave, tell people where they can find you.
You can catch me on Twitter /BlueSky at StatBoyDrew, and you can catch my writings on The Last Word on College Football, a part of The Last Word on Sports family.
Thank you so much for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every day. For your second listen, go check out our friends at Locked On Big 12. You can find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And you can find us here later today on Locked On UTF.